This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
It's the day after the federal budget. We welcome you to Real Talk on this, the 30th of March. Ryan Jesperson here with John Hicks, and we've got a banging show for you coming up in about 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. We'll see how our conversation goes with our leadoff hitter today, with Erica Ifill in just a second. But we're going to sit down with three restaurateurs who are joining us in studio, all of them honored, featured in Edify's new issue of Edmonton's Best Restaurants. We're going to hear three different stories from three different individuals, three different backgrounds, but all of them, of course, have one thing in common, and that is that they are showing the courage that it takes to run a restaurant in a post-COVID reality. And I'm really looking forward to that conversation. We'll look to our live chat. Of course, we'll look to our hashtag, RealTalkRJ. That's powered by Park Power for your comments and your questions. We know our engaged audience will have something to say, I'm sure, as we pick the brains of these three business people. That's essentially what a federal government does, a provincial government as well. Isn't it? A finance minister, when they put together and then release a budget, they essentially send a statement to the electorate on what they perceive the top priorities, the top challenges to be, the top investment needs, and that's what the federal government did yesterday with a big budget, a budget that looks ahead, that looks forward to a clean economy, that looks to address some shortfalls, but of course not everybody happy. That's just the way that it goes with budgets. Erica Ifill is in an interesting position. She's an economist. She's also a journalist. She writes for the Hill Times. And, of course, she's the co-host of the Bad Bitchy podcast. She's been a great friend of this show, and we're grateful that she's making time for us this morning. It's nice to see your face. It feels like it's been a while. I haven't had a chance yet to congratulate you in person, so to speak, Zoom, I'll take it, on being honored. The Canadian Journalists for Free Expression Gala. You received a pretty big honor just a short time ago. Because of some of the BS that you've been putting up with lately. But can I say, as a colleague and as a friend, I'm proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. My loud voice did something.
Hey, keep ramping it up, my friend. I should mention you were also honored by the Hill Times as one of the top 100 Canadians, one of the top 100 most influential people in government and politics in 2023. So this is good. You already knew internally that you had the credibility to speak, but it's always nice when it's recognized externally, isn't it?
It is very. I'm actually humbled because when I came into journalism, I didn't go to J school. So I was already different. And basically, I started a podcast like you did, Ryan.
Yeah.
And basically found myself writing about stuff that we talked about on the podcast. And it's in that time, about 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, that was not the acceptable sort of way of talking about things around race, gender, and class. And so, as I feel like I may have been a little bit ahead, but the world caught up to me.
Huh. Interesting way to put it. Yeah. Well, can I say that I think oftentimes the best commentators, and you're not sort of just a journalist. It takes a little bit more, I think, or at least a different skill set to put out an informed opinion, to take a position on things. And you roll into it with the experience as an economist, which gives you a perspective that not a lot of people do, including, and I don't know why I'm taking it in this direction. I'm not looking to throw shade at journalists that were covering the federal budget yesterday. I'm just saying, when you look at a big document like that, what is it, 255 pages or something,
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at it through a different lens. You're looking at it through the lens of an economist. I've got my own talking points. I've got my own questions for you, but what's the story of this budget as you see it?
We're heading into choppy waters. I think there was this, if you look at the fiscal, the economic part of the budget, the fiscal and economic parts, you could tell that they've revised down GDP growth. For one, they've revised up the deficit. from November, from the fall economic statement. And we still haven't felt the effects of the aggressive monetary stance that the Bank of Canada has taken. I think the words they used was shallow recession. And I was like, oh, great. So there's going to be, it's not, as I said at the beginning of 2023 on one of my TikToks, it was it's just going to get worse. I'm sorry.
For people that are watching this on YouTube, you're saying it's just going to get worse, and you have a beaming smile on your face, and I don't know how to take it.
You know why? Because we've been through this, what we've been through in the past, say, 3 years, this pandemic has upended a lot of things, and we're trying to see where things actually settle.
Yeah.
Because things haven't settled yet. The labor market hasn't sorted itself out yet, for example. And so we're still kind of feeling those effects, even though a lot of people just want to move on and forget that it didn't happen. But there are real sort of economic realities that the pandemic has left that we are going to have to deal with, to be honest.
As you're saying, the projections for economic growth aren't as rosy as they may have been. Maybe they're a little bit more realistic, but they've worsened even since the government's fall fiscal update, like you're saying. And Ottawa has essentially walked away from a fall projection to balance the books within 5 years. That's not going to happen.
Nope, it's not going to happen.
And so
go ahead. It's partially, I don't want people to think, because here's the thing, people assume that it's spending that increases debt and deficits. It's not always that. So, for example, if you look at the program spending to, I believe it's program spending to debt ratio, program expenses, for example, as a percentage of GDP, you can start to see, I think, in this year, in 2021-22, it's 18.7%. And then it just drops to 15.7%, which is around the Stephen Harper era number of program expenses to GDP ratio. So it's the reason the debt is going up and we're projecting deficits, a lot of it has to do with inflation. And so the cost of servicing that debt has gone up.
The leader of the official opposition, Pierre Poilievre, and I want to play a clip for you. We'll get your analysis on this, on whether or not he's being fair, or whether it's just political posturing, or maybe a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. But this fiscal year that begins April 1st, a couple of days from now projected to show about a $40 billion deficit as compared to $30 billion that was contained in the fall update. And here's how the leader of the official opposition spun it yesterday.
He was telling us only a few days ago that deficit spending would spark even more inflation, higher grocery bills, more expensive housing, and other costs for families. And today, she rolls out a bonanza of $43 billion of new inflation, debt, and taxes that will be on the backs of everyday, hard-working Canadians. All that they have delivered is more debt, more inflation, and more costs on the backs of the hard-working and beleaguered people of this country, and that is why Conservatives are proud to announce we will be voting against this inflationary scam. In fact, the gross cost of all the new spending announcements in this budget works out to $4,300 for every single family in Canada. That's almost enough to house the Prime Minister in the hotel room for one night. That's how expensive this government has become.
Okay, so there you go. A shot at the $6,000 London hotel room for the Queen's funeral, which I got to be honest, I thought that was well played. You don't have to. It
was well played, but can I just say, why are we so cheap in this country? Is he supposed to? I have you been to London?
He's supposed to stay at the
Do
Howard
you know
Johnson.
how
like
much that hotel room costs?
Yeah.
The hotel room is probably a box, and it costs $6,000 a night.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I know this is we get all caught up in these types of things.
We do.
Here's what happens when you and I talk: is our conversations swerve all over the road, but we
I
always
know.
end up at our destination. But it's like Bev Oda's $16 orange juice. It's like this. It's the $6,000 hotel room. People can Google Stephen Harper's trip to Yankee Stadium, and they'll realize how much that cost taxpayers more than $30,000. They all do it, and Stephen Harper's the prime minister. Justin Trudeau's the prime minister. Like they're not going to stay in the Super
expecting?
8. So anyway, I digress.
Yeah,
but I thought
I'm there with you.
But
I swear.
I thought that if it's
next time I come to Edmonton, we're having a beer.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have a beer in studio. You're gonna join me. We're gonna turn the microphones
on.
We're gonna have 6 beers.
Because I might be there sooner than you think.
Okay, great, great. You mean permanently, or you mean as a visitor?
No, not permanently.
Okay, yeah. People that maybe are catching you for the first time here may not know that you do have Alberta roots, and so you also bring that great perspective
I grew up
to
in
the
Edmonton.
show. Yeah. So I think here's the deal. It's Pierre Poilievre's job to do exactly what he just did on this show and others, which is to get the clip, to get the zinger. But let's get into the meat, essentially of what he's talking about. Does he have a leg to stand on, the argument?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah.
So again, I go back to program spending to GDP ratio. That's where you will get the impact of spending as a proportion of GDP, right? It's this year, so 21-22, like I said, it was 18.7%, but it's going to drop 3 percentage points. According to the budget. And that's been pretty consistent from the fall economic update, even with the war in Ukraine. But here's my problem with the way we talk about budgets and spending. We talk about price, we don't talk about value. What are we getting for the spending? For example, are we getting programs? Are we getting support? Are we getting policies that improve the quality of life in this country? That is the question that we should be asking, instead of, how much was spent here or how much was spent there. You know what? Things get expensive. Okay.
And I gotta, it's, to be honest with you, and I appreciate you're bringing these, you're like 18.7% here, 15.1%. That's fine. But like, honestly, the truth, the real talk is that my eyes glaze over when we start talking like that. I lose interest when we start to, no, but it's important. And it's good that you're pointing it out. And you're saying inflation's a factor and here's what's contributing to, but what I'm most interested in as not an economist is the message that the government's sending and the tone that the budget sets and whether or not it resonates with or reflects what the people are looking for. You know what I'm saying? And so I think in this one,
nobody's happy with this budget. So take that as it will. From the chatter that I've been seeing, there are a lot of people who aren't happy. For example, people with disabilities had been expecting a lot more. And what do they get? They get a savings plan, or they get an update to the savings plan, which is silly policy, in my opinion, because who on disabilities, and I know that, who on disabilities has money left over for savings? Savings plans usually benefit the upper class and higher. So, and these are not the demographic of people with disabilities. So to me, that's a throwaway kind of policy. It's silly.
One of the things that I thought was interesting, and I don't know a ton on this, I want to follow up on it in a future episode, but it's that the income taxes or essentially like the paperwork is going to be auto-filed on behalf of a lot of lower income Canadians, which anti-poverty advocates are saying is going to be a big step forward. I want to credit Dakota Kochi for this one, a public affairs pro, longtime political staffer as well, pointing out yesterday that at first glance, anyway, the budget appears to spend about 55% less on Indigenous communities over the next 5 years that the previous budget did, which I think is significant. I don't know if I don't know if everything sends a message, But a lot of times it does.
The method seems to be, and this is what's troubling me a little bit. A lot of communities that receive support have been left out of this budget or have only been given crumbs. So we're talking about Indigenous people. We just talked about people with disabilities, LGBTQ2IA people, same thing, because I haven't seen much in the budget for them either. All of these marginalized communities seem to have fallen by the wayside in an attempt to deal with inflation and those inflationary pressures and the ugliness that brings. And the fact that they're predicting a quote unquote shallow recession tells me that A, it may be worse than we think, and B, that as soon as there's a recession or as soon as the pant tightening begins, the marginalized communities fall by the wayside. That's what I'm getting from this budget.
Tracy's watching us live on YouTube right now, says reviewed the 270 pages, lots of support for business and industry and people, but it will be costly. Tracy says, I'm not worried because there are still over 1 million job vacancies. Alyssa says it's actually a good budget. The issue is that the majority of Canadians will never read it, and they'll only listen to the gotcha clips on social media. 100% true. Interesting points here. I mean, I love this one from Jillian, who's just going back to the clips we play and the politicking around this. And she says politics has barely evolved past the popularity contest of electing the class president. Your first experience of politics is seeing the popular kid win when he can't do anything right. So there's some healthy cynicism there.
There's a lot about, I know they're pushing the green economy too. I don't know how that's going to play in Alberta, but and I think that's just a direct result of the U.S. and their infrastructure.
Can we both agree that it would be stupid to ignore that?
Pardon?
Can we both agree it would be stupid to ignore that? It would be stupid to not.
Yeah, it would be stupid. It's just late.
Well, sure. We talked.
I mean, and what does that say? Are you saying that we cannot move on something as big and ambitious as that unless the U.S. does it first? I mean, I actually applaud the ambition in that part of the budget, because budgets aren't known to be ambitious. But what it is part and parcel. If you read the budget, it is totally connected to the U.S. and their policy. And I find that we really need to rethink where we're going and how we're doing it in this country. Economically speaking, we really need to think about who's being left out. And the more people who are being left out is the more disaffected people you will have. And that's what I'm that's the kind of perspective I bring. Yes, there's a lot for jobs and industry and so on and so forth. But here's a little tidbit that I've noticed over, say, the last decade about public funding, is that a lot of it is done through funds. And what that means is that there is a fund, there's eligibility criteria for this fund. And so I can say I'm giving, say, $10 million to women in business, let's say, which was an actual fund, is an actual fund. The experience of funds is that the take-up is low. And it very much depends on how the fund is constructed in terms of who can access it. So the people who actually access or find themselves accessing and being able to get money from the funds are not necessarily the people that need the help. And so the other part of that, so you have low take-up, which means low effectiveness.
Let me ask you for a sec. Are you saying, do you think that that's intentional? Do you think it's a subtle
And I'll tell you,
hurdle that's placed in the way
I think
to
it's
keep
intentional, and I'll
engagement
tell you
low?
why. So this is going to be a little bit of inside baseball.
Sure.
So bear with me. So ask me whatever question if you're like, I'm not following you, because this is very important. In the budget, I found something quite interesting about lapsed funds. So lapsed funds is money allocated in the budget, right, that hasn't been spent in the fiscal year in which it was allocated, right? So let's say we get, say, $5 million of take up, right? So we give $5 million away in this fund. The remaining $5 million is what they call a lapse. And what it does is it goes at the end of the fiscal year, it goes to paying down the debt. So what happens with lapsed funds is that the projected deficit, the projected debt may not actually be the actual debt. It may come in as lower than expected because you haven't counted your lapse funds yet.
Yeah, for sure. But again, this is not what the average person pays attention to. This is what
That's why you have me
this is why I
here.
have you
But the
here
point-
to put it on
the
our
point-
radar. But the average
Yeah.
person today is like, did I get dental care or not? Are my taxes going
I am
up
happy about dental,
or
by the way.
down? Well, Jagmeet Singh got that, right? I mean, I'm
Yeah,
referencing
that's
here
all
reporting by
in.
the Globe and Mail,
That's
but
an NDPism right there.
Yeah,
And they have all right to claim credit for it, because we know the Liberals wouldn't have done that without them.
yeah, I mean, it's and I mean, I don't know who just, yeah, sure, it would give NDP credit on that. I mean, it's a Liberal survival tactic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the government falls without the NDP's support on this. The budget falls. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was an interesting one. You've got the home savings account that comes into effect with the, a tax-free home savings account.
Okay, see, that's another policy that benefits the upper middle and upper classes.
Right, because you're saying lower income Canadians can't capitalize or maximize the
I'm
$8,000
sorry, are we
a
not
year
in
they
the
can.
middle of an affordability crisis? What are
Yeah.
you giving people savings funds for?
But if you didn't roll out something, if you didn't put something out there, then people would call it obtuse, right? They would call the budget ignorant. They would say, and you have to ask, to what degree can the federal government do something? I mean, this is a whole different conversation about the role that we want governments to play interfering with markets like the housing market. And there is an affordability crisis, but not everybody wants the government starting to meddle with the housing market, right?
That assumes a lot. That assumes that without the government, that there isn't a market failure there already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we like to talk about, a lot of people love to talk about free markets without actually talking about the conditions in which a free market must have to exist.
Mm.
So, for example, monopolies, duopolies, oligopolies, that's not a free market, right? And so once you start talking about zoning, that is not a free market. You can't build anywhere you want to, is the point. So I think that what we have to understand is what a free market actually is.
Is there anything, before I thank you for your time, is there one thing about this budget? I mean, there's a lot.
Do you want me to give you a shout out to Alberta?
Oh, sure.
I will do my shout out to Alberta.
Yeah.
And honestly, Kristen Rayworth,
Your
is
co-host on Bad and Bitchy.
Bad and Bitchy podcast, my podcast now. So she gives the total Alberta experience, and she is as smart as a whip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just on it. Love her. And so she often reminds me that Alberta is a leadership province. It's a province that leads a lot. So let me tell you what Alberta led. Here's what I saw in the federal budget: creating a new leave for pregnancy loss. So remember the whole Alberta abortion Supreme Court decision last year? I feel like this is a response to that. So Budget 2023 proposes to make amendments to the Canada Labour Code to create a new standalone leave for workers in federal regulated sectors who experience a pregnancy loss. Now, who did it first? You did last year, Alberta. And so remember when Sarah Biggs was on your pod and we made friends?
Yeah.
Well, Sarah, I had her on.
We should, for context, I'll let people know she was Leela Ahir's campaign manager in the UCP leadership race, and she's a political strategist based out of Calgary.
This is how I make friends on your show.
Yeah.
So I had her on the Bad Bitchy podcast because she was instrumental in helping Bill 17 in Alberta, which would amend the Employment Standards Code to expand access to bereavement leaves to employees who experience a pregnancy loss. So I would like to say that Bill 17 led that federal government policy change.
Very cool. I love
so
that.
Congratulations, Alberta.
Trace that back to the source.
Yeah.
That's
and it's
awesome.
it's quite a progressive one.
No, and
when
to anybody who's
like,
experienced
Alberta's
that's a big
rednecks
deal.
And stuff, I'm like, you don't get Alberta.
People
so,
know that Alberta's not just rednecks. We're not rednecks. Well, I mean, I guess it depends who you compare us to, right, Johnny?
Let's
it depends
slow
who you
down.
compare us to.
We're keeping this one
I
on the
grew up
record.
there. I know what it's like.
Yeah,
we're keeping this little clip on the record, Erica, where you gave us the big ups.
That we're not just rednecks. This is we're working on a new
She
Real
said
Talk.
it.
A new Real Talk trailer. That might be the lead clip.
We're not just
in the trailer.
Yeah, that's going to be the trailer. We're not just rednecks.
Hey, it's good to see your face again, and we took you into overtime, but I think it's just because when you and I hang out, the vibe is just kind of feels like we're having coffees or beers, which is what we look for. So thank you for this. People should read your work in the Hill Times. They should subscribe to your Bad and Bitchy podcast. They should check out the work that you're doing with Not In My Color, and they can do it all by following you on Twitter or Instagram, and we link to those from our tweet from Real Talk RJ just about an hour ago. It's nice to see your face again, Erica. Thanks for bringing it today.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, you got it. We'll talk to you again soon. That's Erica Ifill, a good friend of the show. That conversation was presented by our friends at Urban Timber, Reclaimed Wood Company. They're the ones that we looked to when we were looking to get this beautiful table in studio. They helped us build out our studio, and they would love to do the exact same thing for you, whether it's your home or office, whether it's a kitchen table, a dining room table, a coffee table, or a boardroom table. Our recommendation is that you check in with Urban Timber. In particular, I want to talk to you about their boxcar collection, and you can check it out online at urbantimber.ca. These are literally rail car planks, like planks from the floor of rail cars that have traveled millions of kilometers across North America. Of course, there's character unique to each one. They've got the scuffs and the gouges out. Of course, it's all finished beautifully with food-safe coating from Urban Timber, but it means that every single piece that they create is unique. There's nothing like an Urban Timber table. Of course, they also do flooring and countertops and wall paneling and a whole bunch of other stuff. We recommend you check out urbantimber.ca today, and they will present our official Real Talk Roundtable. That's coming up tomorrow when we get into child, adolescent, and family mental health supports. It's an important conversation fueled by Urban Timber. Our friends at Friesen Brothers want to let you know that their sourdough hot cross buns are now available all the way through till Easter. These are baked fresh every single day with their real Alberta bakers. Of course, a little bit of Charlie, that sourdough starter, in each batch, baked fresh daily. And if maybe you're looking to customize Easter dinner and maybe take a load off yourself, why not look to Friesen Brothers Catering? You can check it out online, cateringbyfriesen.com, and customize your family's Easter feast. It's easily reheated, and it lets you spend quality time with your family and friends. Hey, this federal budget looks a lot into the price of electricity. There's a whole bunch of details there on how the federal government's trying to help out Canadians with the affordability around utilities. Park Power's been doing the exact same thing, and we've been telling you about it here on Real Talk from the moment we launched this show. They're your friendly local utilities provider that is providing lower cost utilities, electricity, natural gas, and internet than all the big guys. You don't believe me? Take 2 seconds to compare rates yourself at parkpower.ca. And don't forget their bundling incentive. The promo code REALTALK23 knocks $50 off for each utility off your first bill. In other words, if you take electricity, natural gas, and internet to Park Power with the promo code REALTALK23 at parkpower.ca, you're going to save $150 off your first bill. Nobody else is doing that. We guarantee it. Does this summer involve maybe a reinvention of your family's outdoor space? Maybe the front yard, maybe the backyard. Maybe you got into a brand new home, but the landscaping is just uninspired. The sod looks lousy. The trees are tiny. Why not reinvent that space? Bring it to life with the expert touch from Mike and his team at Eden Landscaping. I asked him a short time ago, Mike, what are you most proud of when it comes to your family business? He said, we've never encountered a construction-related problem we couldn't solve. Not everybody goes on the record and says that. You can check out their portfolio today at landscapeedmonton.ca. That's Eden Landscaping. We're proud to partner with them right here on Real Talk. And before we get to our roundtable, let me also remind you that this entire studio, let's show the folks on YouTube the wide shot here. We love this shot of our studio, and you know who built it? This is the team at Complete Care Restoration. Now, when we first got into this building, it's 110 years old. There were some things that presented challenges, including a persistent water leak in the ceiling. And when you got speakers and cameras and lights and microphones, that's a problem. The team at Complete Care, this is their business, solving problems including fire damage, flood damage, and that pesky mold. That's right. Even asbestos removal, they do it all. And chances are your insurance policy allows you to choose which team's going to do the work if you do encounter a nightmare like a fire or flood. We recommend you choose Complete Care Restoration, just like we did. And let them know that Real Talk sent you. Well, the latest issue, we do episodes, they do issues. The latest issue of Edify magazine celebrates the best restaurants in our home city of Edmonton. It's one of Canada's culinary capitals, right? Well, I'll just ask our next three guests who have been kind enough to join us in studio. I'm really excited to connect with each of them. Nadine Lewis joins us from Caribbean Cafe. We've got Ed Donszelmann in the house from Otto Food and Drink. And Blair Lebsack joins us from Range Road. To the three of you, welcome, and thanks for making time for us this morning. This is a big moment for you, Nadine. Less than a year ago, you were working in insurance.
Yep.
And now you're in the pages of Edify, owning and operating one of Edmonton's best restaurants. How did you do it?
Well, I always liked cooking. Me and my cousin were together, and we had a little catering business, but we had if you have full-time jobs. She was in, I was in insurance, and she was in healthcare. And then through the pandemic and everything else, we just decided, hey, if we're going to go for it, let's go for it. And here we are.
You know what I love about your story is that, and I'm not going to make light of this. I know I'm saying this. It was like Erica Ifill that just joined us, and she's got a big smile on her face as she talks about how the economy is going down the toilet. So I don't mean to have a big smile on my face when I talk about how many restaurants closed, because it was a huge struggle and remains a big issue for a lot of restaurateurs through the pandemic. But here you are swimming in the exact opposite direction. What gave you the guts to open something during COVID with such an uncertain landscape?
Well, I mean, because of COVID, I got laid off, and I was kind of doing a bunch of other stuff and, contract work. And my cousin was like, yeah, didn't want to stay in healthcare. It was a lot going on in healthcare as well. And we just said, like, if not now, when? And we just said, what do we have to lose? Kind of like we're already at the bottom. So was just like, go for it. And you know what? It was the best decision that we ever made.
Oh, I love hearing it. It was a move for yourself.
Yeah.
So you're honored among Edmonton's best new restaurants. A tiny little space just off Jasper Avenue. What is it like? What's your 15-second pitch on what it is that sets your place apart? What do you think caught the attention of Edify?
Well, we are the only Trinidadian Caribbean restaurant in Edmonton that I know of, and most of the Caribbean restaurants are Jamaican, a lot of Jamaican cuisine, and so I think it's just we are just providing something that is not in the marketplace, and so we're just filling a niche.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Ed, you've been in the business, like in hospitality, for a long time.
Yes.
And people will recognize, I mean, when I start going through your CV and talking about your experience, like number one, you were with Big Rock for like more than 10 years, right?
Yeah, in the early days of Big Rock.
Kind of the original
Yes.
microbrew in Alberta,
Yeah,
right?
one of the-
Which was pretty neat. Must have been a neat experience.
That's where my love of craft beer came from.
Yeah, right on. So that's where the seed gets planted there. And then you made a move into the restaurant industry.
Yeah, I traveled a lot to the Netherlands, which is where my parents immigrated from. Fell in love with the cafe culture there, and it was always a dream to try to recreate that cafe culture here in Edmonton. And I mean, I was partners in other restaurant ventures earlier on, and now Otto Food and Drink is very, very much that dream coming true.
I love it. You were a longtime partner for people that know Edmonton's food scene or Alberta's food scene. You partnered with Brad Lazarenko, the chef behind the Kalina Restaurant Group, for a number of years before opening Otto Food and Drink. And I know a lot of people were really excited about Otto, especially it seems the beer enthusiasts, because sausage just pairs so nicely with brews.
Yeah, it's a very simple and perfect combination.
Yeah. I love your advertising. I love sort of how you promote your business. It's a family friendly beer house in a way,
Very much so.
And you proudly announce we have no TVs.
Yeah, that's always been the dream. There's enough restaurants, bars out there to cater to the sports fans. I really wanted to do something that was very much away from that. Otto's is a meeting place. The music's quiet. It's a place for people to come and connect.
I should also mention you were a partner in Sugar Bowl for a while, just on the south side of the High Level Bridge, which has its famous. Would you say the lamb burger is the most famous menu item at Sugar Bowl?
Probably that, and of course, the cinnamon bun.
The cinnamon bun, the massive cinnamon bun.
Yeah.
Can you take credit for the lamb burger? Was that yours?
No. I can't take credit for any of the food. I'm a front of house guy, not the kitchen guy.
Okay, well, I want to circle back on that and ask you how the front of house or the hospitality experience has evolved or changed over the years. But let's loop this guy into the mix. Blair Lebsack, your restaurant, Range Road, and the butchery next door is often, if not always, mentioned among Edmonton's best restaurants. How do you stay on top? How do you do something like that with the number of new restaurants coming on the scene, with the competition, with the external factors at play?
For us, again, we're hitting 10 years. So we turned 10 years old this summer.
I can't believe it.
I know. It does.
I remember when you opened.
I know. Yeah, I remember you sitting there. And again, it was one of those things, we've expanded twice since we opened up. So we started out at, just that 1,700 square feet, and now we're over 8,000 square feet. And so these two different things, they've really just kind of added to what we thought we could bring to the restaurant scene. And so I think what we're always looking at is we're never attempting to be what we were the year before. We're always trying to, push ourselves and kind of keep on top of what we think is necessary and keep people interested in what we're doing. So there's always small, renovations that we do, sometimes big renovations. And so for us, the last one was adding the butchery on. And so that one adds a whole other aspect to what we do, but really internally, it allows us this bigger playground to have. And so now we're working with farmers, and now everything, me to, talk to a farmer and say, can you raise me, 300 geese? That's definitely in the ballpark for us now. Can I get, if you raise me 40 lamb of a specific breed, I will take all 40 lamb. And so now it allows us to have that playground of ingredients, and now our creative team, we have a wonderful kitchen team and front of house teams. Now everyone gets to talk about these sort of things coming into the building and how are we going to work with them. Even talking with some of our vegetable farmers and going to them specifically and saying, can you grow us, these 10 vegetables for, to get us going in April in a greenhouse. Then let's move on what happens in July, August, September, and then we figure out a plan of what is being stored for us over the winter. And so all these sort of things over the 10 years keeps us, at the forefront of us wanting to push the food. And we always say Edmonton deserves something nice. And I think that's what Edmonton restaurants are really all about. Let's not make people attempt to go to Las Vegas for dinner. Let's give them some of these sort of things that are here. And that's kind of pushing the thing. And so for us, do you want to cook at home? I think we have some beautiful dry aged steaks that you can come and pick up and cook at home. You want to have a night out? We want you to turn off your brain once you get in the door because we're taking care of you and giving you a nice selection of food in the restaurant.
Yeah, I always tell people when people are going to Range Road, I should let people know as well that Range Road is about a pitching wedge from our house. I could hit your restaurant with a golf for sure. Well, I wouldn't be. My aim is off, but I could do the distance. But people say, "What should I order off the menu at Range Road?" And I say nothing. I say you go on the road trip, which is the famous 5 or 6 courses, and you just roll out these small plates all night long, and nobody knows what's coming.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's like, and it started. That was day one on our menu, and it was always, Range Road. That's where we go to get our food. We're driving on Range Roads to get our food. That's where it all comes from. And then we just kind of thought, everyone, we wanted to do a tasting menu. Let's call it the road trip. And so now it's about going down these roads and getting some of these ingredients. And so now people go on the road trip with us, and it's ever changing. Like, to me, I have no clue what I did 2 years ago because everything is always changing on that one. And it's really cool to see. And then we have staff that get really intrigued in new things. So suddenly they're like, oh, okay, well, like the other day we were making a cheese gnocchi, but instead of your average cheese gnocchi, this is one that they, used all of our cheese to actually like melt and it's not really flour. It's not even as much flour based anymore. It's like using enough cheese that it's almost like this melty, this structured fondue that melts into your mouth.
Oh, jeez.
So and then charred cabbage. So like,
why are we letting you talk about this without bringing it in, man? Nadine, I don't want to act like you didn't have any experience because you ran a small catering company for quite some time.
Yeah.
But people always say when a celebrity, like a movie star or someone or an athlete goes into the restaurant business, people always go, uh-oh. Because it's not a joke, and profit margins are so slim, and there's so much you have to understand about it. How did you navigate those waters? How did you get a sense of how a restaurant not just survives but thrives?
To be honest with you, we're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
We jumped in and we weren't worried about the cooking part because we'd been cooking and people had been harassing us for years. Like, you need to get your restaurant. And we were like, nah. And then when the opportunity came and we finally decided, we're kind of learning as we go. I mean, I worked in business for a long time, so I still have all your experiences come together somehow to help you navigate it. And I ask questions. I talk to people who are already in the restaurant business for a long time. I talked to Blair, even was asking them, met him before, say, okay, how do you do pricing? How do you do this? How do you, you just kind of figure it out and then, this is working, this isn't working, and tweak it. So it's still a work in progress.
Is it like a collaborative community? Do you find that people are typically eager, other people in the business eager to see you succeed?
100%. For us, I feel like it's been honestly so humbling, so sometimes crazy. I go home and I think about we've met so many people. They're willing to give us all kinds of information, help us with sourcing, help us with just understanding. Because I was saying around what year do you start feeling you got everything under control? And then it's you're never 100%. And then it's good. So I'm okay. I'm doing good because you start wondering because I just felt in the beginning oh my God, but hey, people are coming to your restaurant. They love your food. They're talking about it. You're being invited different places. It's amazing. It's like I'm living my dream.
You only serve small batch craft beer, right?
Yes.
And can we talk about, I mean, this is just like the cheesiest dad joke of all time, but can we actually talk about how the sausage is made? Can we talk about the theory that goes into, I mean, Blair gives us a sense of how he builds his menu and how he communicates with his partners in ag and livestock. And how does it come together for you when you're deciding who's going to get those coveted taps and who's going to actually make or source the sausage and what your local, I mean, you're an inner city eatery, and I know that obviously you've got a fiercely loyal clientele. How do you best understand what's going to make sense offering wise to keep that clientele coming back and also, of course, to keep the business healthy?
Well, you know what? First of all, I'm just going to give Blair a shout out. We're not even anywhere close to the level of what Blair is doing, and I'm so proud of him and everything that he's done and how much he's helped us along the way as well. For me, we partnered up with Fuge Sausages right from the beginning, and we've never varied from, and Steve even worked in our kitchen for 5 years before moving on, and now it's still Fuge Sausage, but they're made locally here in Edmonton by Love Pizza. They bought the recipes. Steve is still a partner in that and consults. So the sausages are simple. And when I created this restaurant, I also wanted to do something really simple because I'm not a kitchen guy. And so the sausages were just, nobody was doing it. And then to partner up with breweries, I picked the beers just based on the beers that I like. We have some beer reps that make the effort to pop in, say hello. And, having come from that industry, people if the rep makes the effort, then I try to make the effort to put one of their beers on tap or get one of their cans into our fridge. So,
there's a lot of easier things than running a restaurant, right?
There's so many easier.
Dumbest business in the world.
It's the dumbest business to go into, but it's also the best.
I love it.
And there's something that a restaurant, like when we lose a restaurant, we live near a restaurant. We live in a restaurant district in Edmonton, a pedestrian district off 124th Street. People, locals will know. And when you lose a restaurant off the street, it feels like a punch in the gut. And when you see that somebody is bold enough to open a restaurant, there's nothing quite like the excitement that you feel there too. There's such an important part. I know I'm stating the obvious, but I mean, look at the slogans. Like, look at your slogan at Cafe Caribbean. I love it. Right? Great food, good vibes. Or yours, Ed. Eat with people you love.
That came from a wedding. We had a wedding at the restaurant, and that was the couple's tagline. And I just said, "Hey, could we use that? Would you be offended?" And they were like, "No, please do." And so it's been our tagline ever since.
And you've seen that, Blair, I know, because a lot of people look like your restaurant. Is this a good or bad thing when your restaurant becomes the spot for anniversaries and special occasions? I would imagine it's good on one hand, but it's also tough because you're probably trying to remind people they don't have to wait till their anniversary to come in.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We are always telling people, like, we feel like we're not a special occasions restaurant, but we do understand why people come on special occasions. And I think when we first started the restaurant, what you think your restaurant is going to be does change depending on how they perceive you. And so we just thought no one wanted to sit in a room for more than 2 hours. So our initial concept was we will get people in and out in an hour and 45 minutes and flip tables because no one wants to sit around that long.
Yeah.
And that's just where we thought the minds were of people, and no one wanted to leave our restaurant. No one would leave. And so after 3 hours, we would be, more along that lines of, oh, okay, is it maybe time now to wander out? And so we just kind of changed our menu to adapt for that. How do we, if people want to be here that long, what do we do to keep them entertained? How do they see more of what we do in that amount of time? And it kind of evolved to where it is today. And again, a long evolution of 10 years. And, now we're taking people on tours of the butcher shop in between courses because we can show them over there. There's a lot of ways to interact in our place. And we do have, our new meeting space that is in the butchery. And so all these sort of things add to the way we interact with our customers. And I think how we add to the neighborhood. We're in your neighborhood. We see people a lot more now. Now we see the people that are coming in on a Saturday night for dinner, and then instead of seeing them 2 months down the time, maybe for something else, we see them 6 other times. They're in grabbing a sandwich in the butcher shop. They're in grabbing some sausages to take home to the barbecue. And so I think for us, that was the real evolution, is how often we get to see these people and interact with them and make these connections.
Yeah. Yeah, there are so many like juvenile jokes that I want to make.
Oh, don't even go there.
I say Ed's eyes light up when you talk about sausage, and then I'm like, you can't say that, but of course you can. And you've heard them all, I'm sure.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I'm sure.
Surprisingly, not as much as you would think.
Yeah,
yes.
Most people are more mature than this idiot sitting right here. Have you found with Cafe Caribbean, has it become kind of like a community hub?
Oh, 100%. And it's like we have regulars that and it's like, 6 months we have regulars, but anyway, it's great.
That's amazing.
They come in all the time, and it's like, it's so hilarious because we have this competition that we have with our 2 drinks that we like. I make the punch and my cousin makes the sorrel, and we have our customers, if you're new, you have to try the drinks and you have to vote, right? And it's hilarious.
I heard
right?
about the sorrel. This is the hibiscus flower one,
right? And so it's so hilarious, right? Because we give them, no, just try it, and then we always say, now choose well, right?
Yeah.
So they don't know whose is what, right? But they're like, I kind of like both, and nobody wants to. And I'm like, nope, a decision must be made. And then of course, if I win, like she's as obnoxious as I am, then I'm like, yes, the punch wins again. And then we have all these things, so it's really great. We get great interaction. Customers just come in all the time. They like, because we always have specials, so they like that they can just come in and they're like, hey, what specials have you have? Because sometimes we make stuff that we don't really advertise, but because if you come in, you'll know that it's kind of there.
Yeah.
So it's really great.
You've got, I think your place is known, and we'll credit the team at Edify. They do a beautiful job of this, and people can, you can check it out online at edifyedmonton.com, but I always recommend people pick up the physical copy of the magazine, because they do such a beautiful job of it, and because we have a full page color spread in there for Real Talk. But you've got your fried and curried chicken, you've got your steamed fish, the braised pork, the brown stewed beef. Is there like one to you that's the flagship dish? Is there one that
definitely say the curry chicken is our flagship? That's the one everyone. But then the brown stew beef is becoming very popular, and even the braised pork is also now starting to build some momentum, and it's really crazy because one person just has to come in and have that, and maybe we get a lot of like foodies that come in and then they might post it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, what's happening? How come all of a sudden now? Yeah. So it's really great, and it's always changing. But like curry chicken is kind of like our signature dish that like everyone kind of knows us for.
Yeah.
And of course like doubles, because that's like Trinidad street food, and we only do them Fridays and Saturdays, and people just love it. We can't keep up. We can't keep up with that and the meat pies, but we're working on. I'm gonna turn my cousin into a meat pie factory, because she's just like.
Does she know this?
She's gonna know it now.
She's watching right now. She's just
because she's like, I'm not a pie factory. I'm like,
oh man, this is not. I'm going to offer a caveat before this question, because there's nothing wrong with these restaurants I'm about to name. As a matter of fact, I worked at one of them for a long time. But in a culture where you've got Earl's and Joey and Cactus Club and all the ones that are technically chains, but they're not like McDonald's. Do you have to almost train restaurant goers? Do you almost have to train the general public to, like you talk about, you want to recreate or emulate this Amsterdam cafe culture? For people that are inclined or just used to going to that big box restaurant, so to speak. And again, no hate on Earl's.
No.
But do you have to kind of go on a bit of a mission to teach people about what other offerings they can explore or fall in love with?
Absolutely. And you know what? We just hope that, I think people have their restaurants that they go to. We're all guilty of it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. My hope is that they just give Otto a chance, and once they try it once, then fingers crossed.
Once you get them in the door.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's my hope that they have an amazing experience, and that goes for our other 2 guests here as well. Once they step through the doors of these restaurants, they'll become regulars. And no offense to those big guys.
Look at us all being so polite.
Yeah. And you know what? Hopefully we steal a little bit of their business. It's no different than the beer industry, right?
100%.
Like, yeah. Try a craft beer.
Are you guys oftentimes pairing your offerings? Like you want to pair your beer with your sausage, and do you make those recommendations when people come in?
You know what? I don't.
This one or
not so much. No. You know what? I would rather ask the guest, okay, what style of beer do you like? Because I mean, we've got them all.
Yeah.
And so if that's your choice, then I can make these recommendations, and any beer will go with the sausages.
I'm inclined to
It's pretty
agree.
easy, yeah.
But then again, we'll drink beer with birthday cake, so we have, our palate's a little bit different. For people, and this is not like the doom and gloom part of the conversation, but I just, you talk to some people about the economy, not just restaurateurs, but people, small business people, even people that work in big business, and they're looking at cost. I mean, we're talking about the federal budget earlier, and people are looking at, all of the things that factor in. Do you believe that the future is bright for independent restaurants? I mean, the heart and soul of communities. What's your assessment of the next 6 to 24 months?
Yeah, I think it's still really bright. We have a lot of room. And again, Edmonton, we do have I think our culture of Edmonton is that people, they love food and they love to go out, but they almost do like that purpose of going out. So, if it's an Oilers game, they want to go out before the Oilers game. And so I think we have enough things happening in Edmonton that it keeps people going out almost all the time. And I think the nice thing about independent restaurants, I can speak for quite a few of us, is that a lot of our numbers, actually, we're not relying on 300 people coming through our door a night or 500 or whatever these other big places are.
Right.
Like we're really happy with 60 people coming through the door. Like that's fantastic for us.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do. So we're never looking to, take over, like our market share. We have over 1 million people in this city surrounding area, and we still have so many people that have never heard of us before. So that's the other thing, is we're trying to get out there. Is, hey, we do exist. Come and check us out. And then the people that come through the door, there's always a reason to kind of go out for dinner. And again, we just want to be at the kind of in that conversation and let people know that we're there. We're going to show you the best time we possibly can and give you some really good food.
Oh, I love it. All three of you are going to be at this big event on Monday, right?
Yep.
This is awesome. This is at the Edmonton Convention Center in Hall D, which is, of course, the big, beautiful location. It's presented by Edify magazine. It's their best restaurant event. VIP access starts at 5:45, and then, of course, general admission at 6:30. And you can find out more about tickets at edifyedmonton.com. A really neat tasting event where guests can try delicious fare from about 15 restaurants, all in one place in one evening. How cool is that? So it includes your price of admission, VIP or general, tasting tickets for food and drinks, non-alcoholic drinks, beer and wine, plus many delicious desserts. VIP admission, again, that early entry, which is really nice. You get a designated table, which is perfect, and a few other lovely extras. Edmonton-made vendors will be on site selling their goods and services, and there's the 360-degree photo booth, which is super cool. So that's this Monday. It's coming up. There still are a few tickets available at edifyedmonton.com. Nadine, what are you going to be serving there on Monday night?
Curry chicken?
Yeah, you know it. How about you, Ed? Let me get sausage.
Yes.
Do you know which one?
Yeah, we'll be doing our maple and the chorizo, and then a couple of little simple sides, just to keep it really simple. And,
nice.
and
are you
fun.
a mustard guy with it? How do you like it? Depends on.
Depends, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
With the chorizo, maybe some other ideas, but definitely with your standard bratwurst. Yeah, mustard.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
What are you going to be serving on Monday night?
And for us, we're bringing in a whole elk from our great farm out in Bentley. So from Kyle Stevenson, we're butchering a whole elk, and we're doing an elk tataki. And then so the elk tataki is going to get this nice dressing on top of it, some little bit of greens, and that's going to be simple, but it's going to be super beautiful seared elk.
You're not butchering the elk on scene, are you?
I was tempted. Like, we were wondering, and we've actually brought this up, at previous times with Edify. How much can we get away with online? In the past, we have roasted an entire pig's head and taken a pig's head down there.
Yeah.
And people, gave us those looks, and they're like, what? Yeah, like, so it gets people's attention. This time we're going to keep it a little more low key. We're going with everything already kind of.
Yeah, super cool. Yeah. But I mean, you've pushed me out of my comfort zone several times, and I've thanked you every time on that road trip I mentioned, your small plate tour through your restaurant, which is great. I think if there was a rabbit dish I had that I said to my wife, I said, I honestly, and this is no offense to you, obviously, but I said that's not something I would order off a menu, but it was unbelievable.
I think every time that we have a really good idea, we say, if this was words on a menu, no one would order it.
Yes.
But if we do it on this blind tasting menu, everyone will love it.
Yes.
And it happens all the time. And so it's not specific to you. This happens all the time where people would say, I would never order that if it was on a menu. And we say, well, that's why we don't tell you what you're eating before.
I love it. You can check out the newest issue of Edify. This is their annual Best Restaurants issue. They do an unbelievable job with it at edifyedmonton.com. Or, of course, and a shout out to the team at Foos Repair Shop as well. They wanted to be here today, but they got a lot going on right now. Best new restaurant in Edmonton.
Spot.
You should check them out. You love Foos,
yeah,
Johnny?
Amazing.
Yeah, so the vibe in there is awesome as well on 109th Street. So, but the point is, there's like several dozen restaurants in there that deserve a visit from you, friends, and including these three. And we're proud to put them on your radar. That's Caribbean Cafe, Nadine Lewis joining us, Otto Food and Drink with Ed Donszelmann, and Blair Lebsack with Range Road. You can check it out online at edifyedmonton.com. That's also where you can get your tickets to Monday night's event. That's Edify Magazine's Best Restaurant event. Thank you to the three of you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go on the record and say you will see me in all three of your restaurants within 1 month.
All
I'm
right.
going to let you know that. And this can be my first time in yours.
Oh, it'll be good. I look forward to it.
Curry chicken. I'm coming for it. Awesome. Thanks to the three of you.
Okay.
And good luck on Monday night.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you bet. This conversation was presented by our friends at Athabasca University. You know, they've got so much going on there. You're guaranteed to find a perfect fit. Maybe you're looking to get into the culinary arts. Maybe you're looking to get into business management. Maybe some sort of a supply chain role where you could better understand Canada's agriculture industry. What about the beer business like Ed's talking about? You're going to find a fit at Athabasca University. It's Canada's open university with world-class accredited online programs and courses that offer you flexibility to learn at your own pace. That's arguably the best part about it, is that if you need to take a week off of your studies, you're not missing any classes. And if you want to go pedal to the metal, same deal. You're not going to leave a classmate or a group behind. It's all about the schedule that suits your lifestyle at Athabasca University. You can learn more about admissions online today at athabascau.ca. Yesterday, we told you about Local Environmental's core values feature, and I wanted to draw your attention to that on their website at localenvironmental.ca. It's a great opportunity, just a 2-minute video, to get to know the leadership group, as well as some of the frontline workers that keep this business going in Edmonton and area, Whitecourt and area, and Regina and area. Across the Prairie provinces, Local Environmental Services is giving people more bang for their buck. And guess what? When you call them to get a free quote, real humans pick up the phone. You don't get that with those big multinational companies. It's more than just garbage, because communities deserve better with Local Environmental Services. I want to take a second to tell you about our friends at Kubi Renewable Energy. We're talking a lot about this green economy. I mean, just look at this federal budget yesterday. A lot of Canadians are going to be looking to tap into that Canada Greener Homes Grant. That's that $40,000 interest-free loan from the feds to get solar up on your roof. Interest-free. You can learn more about it. Get a free quote today. Kubi does all the paperwork at kubienergy.ca. I also wanted to let you know that Kubi Energy is hiring. They're heading into their busiest season, and it's all hands on deck. Are you or somebody you know passionate about advancing Canada's energy industry while making a positive impact on the environment? You can contact Kubi Energy. They'd love to hear from you. They're looking for apprentices and journey persons in both Edmonton and Calgary. There are other open positions available as well, and you can find them all online at kubienergy.ca. Hey, Kubi's not the only Real Talk sponsor that's hiring right now. Apex Automation is as well. We spent some time yesterday talking about automation with Dr. Joseph Marchand. He joined us, the labor economist out of the University of Alberta. He talked about how the future of the energy industry is going to have a big reliance on automation. Why not hitch your wagon to that horse. Why not capitalize on the opportunity that exists right now for technicians, for professional engineers, and for other skilled workers? Apex Automation has a careers link on their website. You can browse open positions right now or just submit your resume for future considerations. They've tripled the size of their team in the last 3 years. It gives you a sense of exactly the impact that they're making across industries, across the country, and across North America. You'll find them online at apexautomation.ca.
Budgets, banging food, and beers.
I like it.
And it's not lost on me that I'm the guy who brought in the loaf of bread and jar of peanut butter yesterday. So I got some work to do.
There's nothing wrong with that. You brought in at least organic peanut butter, so you get a bit of a shout out for
well,
that.
I'm saving money to support local. That's what I'm doing.
You and I are going to have to get our asses to those 3 restaurants.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really excited. Caribbean Cafe I've not been to. Otto's amazing. Range Road is amazing.
Yeah, right.
But her enthusiasm, like when she's talking about, when Nadine is talking about even just how the roots of the business came about and how they put
drinks,
their menu together and the drinks of it. Like I just love it. Great food, good vibes. That to me
I
is
love it.
one of the best restaurants.
And they're all
slogans.
different. Like I like how Otto's like, hey, you're not here to watch the game or hear DJs. It's a place to conversate, right? They've all got their own vibe. So yeah. You know us. We love indulging. I'm sure we'll take a tour of all 3 in one day.
Oh, yeah, buddy. I'm looking forward to that. Hey, every Wednesday, we have a chance to basically, if we can't take our physical bodies out to Jasper, at least take our minds there and remind ourselves about what lies in wait in the most beautiful pocket of the country. That's Jasper National Park. It's MyJasper Memories, presented by our friends at Tourism Jasper, and we want to put a big annual event on your radar. It's coming up from April 14th through the 23rd, so you got a couple of weeks to make your plans to join your friends, your loved ones in Jasper National Park for the only gay ski week in the Canadian Rockies. Yeah, that's right. It's Jasper Pride Ski Festival. 10 days of epic pride events, action-packed activities, and unlimited skiing, all in the spirit of coming together, proud and free. There's an energy at Jasper Pride that you're not going to feel anywhere else. If you've already attended, you already know this. And if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Being surrounded by natural beauty in a town that openly and proudly supports the LGBTQ plus community year-round, you can't help but feel like you're a part of something special. I wanted to let you know in particular about the Pride Party. This is Dungeons and Drag. It's Saturday, April 15th at the Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge. You can dress up like your favorite ranger or rogue and party the night away in a world of fantasy. Yeah, that's right. More parties through the festival, of course, goes without saying, but the Pride Kickoff Party is one in particular you're going to want to have circled on your calendar. There's Dragalicious and the Fruit Loop Mountain Party as well, which is always really popular. Speaking of beer, Johnny, they've got the Jasper Pride beer launch. They've got events for LGBT teens. They have line dancing workshops if you want to hone your skills, rock and roll bingo, poetry readings, Pride trivia nights, and more. Plus, you can get delicious deals at the Fork and Spoon Food Fest, which is happening all festival long. Now, here's the deal. You just go to jasperpride.ca and you'll find all the details there, jasperpride.ca, to learn more and see the latest event schedule. As you can see, 10 days, more than 30 events, more than 40 performers. It's the Jasper Pride Ski Festival running from April 14th through the 23rd.
So one of my favorite DJs there in that clip, DJ Foreplay, one of the best female DJs in Edmonton there. Big shout out.
DJ Foreplay, that's
DJ
an amazing
Foreplay,
name.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, Jasper Pride is like, I mean, I know that.
Great
that
party.
Pride. Have you been paying attention? Do we want to bring in what's going on in the NHL right now and stuff like that? We got a trash talk tomorrow.
I think it'd be too much, but it's
we were on.
It's just gonna get me angry.
I'll give people the heads up that we have an email that was submitted for trash talk, and trash talk falls on a Thursday this week. Tomorrow's gonna be our last show of this week on Thursday. That'll be presented by Local Environmental Services, and there's a great take, a steaming hot take after, and it wasn't just Ivan Kevin Provorov with the Flyers, but also
Stahl
the Stahl
brothers,
brothers in Florida,
Reimer.
Eric and Mark, and then you had, of course, James Reimer, the goaltender
Reimer.
for the San Jose Sharks, all pointing to their Christian faith, saying that sort of they're not comfortable repping the Pride jersey based on their Christian faith, and we'll get to this email tomorrow, but there's also teams that have just fully canceled.
I think everyone's
their Pride
scared
observations, right? The Chicago Blackhawks,
Yeah.
the New York Rangers among them, and I appreciated Connor McDavid, the best player in the world, saying that culturally, like I'm talking team culture, he said this is a very, like the inclusion aspect of sport, I'm paraphrasing his comment, is very important to this team.
I loved it.
And when a captain and when a leader says that is important to this team, that sends a message to that locker room. And we have hosted conversations on this show where people are talking about, well, there's somebody's, the religious freedom element of this and all that kind of stuff.
It's not about that. It's literally about, are these people welcome in the building?
Yeah.
And in every one of these guys, when they say they're not coming out, they put out some sort of speech about it, and it goes up on Twitter. And the first thing they say is, well, we believe everyone's welcome. Well, that's what the night's about. It's literally the least amount of effort to just say, hey, you're welcome in the building. It doesn't mean I agree with every opinion you have under the sun.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with that. And I love how you said McDavid. There's also Erik Karlsson came out. Zach Hyman of our team as well. But also Matthew Tkachuk, who me, a guy, I'm like, am I liking Matthew Tkachuk now? Because he's even out there saying, listen, everyone's welcome not only in this building, but in my locker room. So I think those are the messages we need to promote more. Those are the messages we need to echo and put out into the world, not these 5 people.
Yeah, which is
out
why
of all
I think
of these guys.
I think it's great that Jasper, so proudly, no pun intended, but presents that Jasper Pride and Ski Festival every year and just creates that welcoming space. Not just geographically, but also in the ski industry, the snowboarding industry, and the hospitality industry. It's just a multifold event and well worth your time. We appreciate when you take the time to send us an email. And this is one that we got just yesterday. If you didn't see it yesterday, I do want to encourage you to check out my conversation with Dr. Joseph Marchand yesterday. He's a labor economist out of the University of Alberta, and he had a really interesting presentation on I guess, number one, probably why he doesn't think that Alberta's energy boom is contributing to a jobs boom. We were asking yesterday, where are all the jobs? Because different than the 1970s, different than the early 2000s, this energy boom is not bringing along with it the types of labor impact you'd like to see. Unemployment is still higher than people are typically comfortable with or used to in a province like Alberta, most especially when there's a boom. And the good doctor, as you'll see in the interview, and I encourage you to check it out, or you can find it on our podcast archives as well if you'd rather listen to it. He said that oil companies are a little, he didn't say sketched out, but he said they kind of got the heebie-jeebies a little bit. He said
was great.
He was great.
Yeah.
He took something and kind of dumbed it down for us so we can understand. But he basically, the gist of it, said that oil companies, based on federal policy and other factors, are hanging on to their cash right now. Some of it's going back to shareholders, which isn't always a bad thing.
Most of it.
If you're an investor, that's not a bad thing. You'll take those dividends. But he said that they're kind of holding their cards close to their chest and not really rolling out big infrastructure projects because they're waiting. They're waiting to see. The future is somewhat uncertain. He said without these big infrastructure projects, you're not seeing the jobs that you might expect to see. Well, it prompted Mark, Real Talker Mark, to send us an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. He says, Jasper, I listened to the interview with Dr. Marchand, and he said, I honestly, and we like emails like this, we're not all here to agree all the time. We're not all here to just take everything at face value and just accept it and gobble it up. We want you to think about what you're hearing. We want you to walk with it and chew on it and let us know what you think. And Mark says, I honestly thought that the research he presented was dated. And I thought that it was out of context with today's situation in Alberta. Here's Mark's take on it. He says, Ryan, you were absolutely correct about minimum wage being a non-topic for this election coming up in Alberta end of May by either party. I said to the doctor yesterday, I said, you can't honestly tell me you think Danielle Smith's going to campaign on lowering minimum wage. You can't honestly tell me you think Rachel Notley's going to campaign on raising minimum wage again. You'll have to listen to the interview to see what he says about that. But Mark says it's not federal rules that are interfering with the bitumen resource industry that's hampering job growth. It's the industry itself shifting its focus to the transition to a lower carbon economy. And the industry's had this plan in the works for quite a while. And this is the cash cow stage. And they're saving and investing in the future and in the industries that are coming. And he says, and I think that Dr. Marchand knew that as I listened to him pivot as he talked about diversification. And then Mark says, here's a link I thought you could maybe pass on to Real Talkers, an interesting story about Alberta's next resource boom. And you can find it on Yahoo's finance page, written by veteran journalist Diane Francis, who says Alberta's on the cusp of another resource boom. We'll put the link to that piece in the show notes on YouTube and on the podcast, so you can click on it if you'd like to read more. A big shout out to Mark, who signs off by saying he loves the podcast. Mark, we love you. And thanks for taking the time to send us a note to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Hey, speaking of celebrations, I wanted to give one big shout out to our friends at the Dairy Queens of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. If you're celebrating, no matter what you're celebrating, there's nothing like enjoying layers of celebration with a DQ cake. Why buy a DQ cake? Well, just imagine world-famous soft serve with a fudgy, crunchy, chocolatey middle. It's the perfect way to celebrate any occasion. Now, if you're in a hurry, you can pick up a ready-made DQ cake or a DQ Blizzard cake at the Dairy Queens of Northwest Edmonton or Sherwood Park. That's the Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, or Baseline Road locations. Or, of course, you can order ahead of time, and you can pick them up 24 to 72 hours after your order is placed. They can customize it whatever you like, whatever the occasion. You can learn more by checking out dqcakes.com. That from the Dairy Queens of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. And the reason why I wanted to save that mention for now, Johnny, is we were very happy to confirm that the Dairy Queens of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park are going to be in attendance on the 10th Tee Box at the Real Talk Golf Classic. That's the second annual golf tournament. Our live studio audience is going bonkers right now because they heard that we're going to be again experiencing the Dilly Bar Shooters.
Oh, gosh.
The Dilly Bar Shooters.
Dangerous territory.
And I'm going to say it's the best shot I've ever had.
Yeah.
On the golf course.
It's like drinking a...
It's like drinking a Dilly Bar is what it's like
drinking a Christmas candy out of a stocking is what I would describe it as.
What?
Yeah. It's so good. So sweet. So good.
Oh, wow. A Christmas candy out of a stocking. Hey, if you want to experience the DQ Dilly Bar Shooter, you need to go to ryanjesperson.com right now. You click on the events link and you look for the Real Talk Golf Classic, and that's where you'll find the details on how you can register for this event, the second annual Real Talk Golf Classic, presented by our friends at CWB Wealth. This tournament, a 2:15 p.m. shotgun start on Thursday, June 22nd of this coming year. Of course, obviously, that's what, Johnny, about 3.5, 4 months from now, something like that-ish. No, it's going to be here before. No, it's like 3 months from now.
It's real close.
This is sneaking up on us.
It's
Thursday,
April, like tomorrow.
It's April tomorrow. That's 2 days from now. I can't believe it. June 22nd, that's a Thursday. Thursday's the new Friday. You already know that. So 2:15 shotgun start. You can register today if you'd like to volunteer or if you'd like to join our sponsorship teams in support of the Real Talk Julie Rohr Scholarship. You can, again, send us an email to golf@ryanjesperson.com. That's ryanjesperson.com. Look at the events link and register your foursome today. Coming up on tomorrow's episode of Real Talk, as mentioned, we are locked and loaded for trash talk with a whole bunch of subjects to cover. You're all kinds of ornery this week, Real Talkers, and that's good. We call you the most engaged audience in the country on purpose, with intent. Plus, the Real Talk Roundtable, presented by our friends at Urban Timber. We highlight resources and supports for child, adolescent, and family youth mental health. The team from CASA in the house.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton. Real Talk's editorial board is Supriya Dwivedi, Ahmed Ali, Brandy Morin, Ann Castleman, Corey Hogan, Harmon Candola, Catherine O'Neill, and Chris Henderson. Member Emerita, Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjasperson.com.